Hey guys, Michael here. Just wanted to do a little introduction, post-production, talking about this video. I did an interview with my good friend Craig Philpott, who is also a photojournalist who specializes in wildfires. This interview was meant for a video that I'm going to be releasing in about a week, talking about the Dixie Fire and the pyrogeography that I did both out in the field and also looking at mapping. When I was editing the video for next week, I wanted to include this interview that I did with Craig, but I just realized he has so much good information, and we had a really good conversation about not only the Dixie Fire, but about wildfire in general and wildfire mitigation. I realized that there's just no way I wanted to cut this entirely. So here's the full kind of unedited video. Also, be sure to check out his YouTube channel. I'll be linking that in the description below. His footage that he gets all around Northern California, not just of wildfires, but just all the other things that he gets up to, is just so cool to watch, and I highly recommend subscribing. And also a big thank you to Craig for sharing some photos so that there could be some good visuals alongside kind of his experiences that he talks about, so that the viewers, all of you guys, can kind of see what he went through and the stuff that he documented. So with that, let's get on with this interview. A lot of these traumatic experiences that we all went through, especially, living in Butte County, as we all know, like Paradise, North Complex, Dixie, now
Yep.
Park Fire. You've been there, you know?
Well, and you've been in there two different ways. One, you're younger and you hit it hard and fast and then started gathering experiences that you weren't looking for.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
here you are, you're doing fine, I think.
I think I'm doing fine. I think I am. We'll see. We'll see in about 10 years, I think.
See in about 10 years. Oh dear.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So, do you mind if you kind of give an introduction to yourself and kind of how you got into documenting wildfires?
Oh dear. Wow. Well, my name is Craig Philpott, and I'm an independent news reporter focusing on California emergencies and hyper focused on wildfires, and then ultimately have emphasized the urban wildland interface more than anything else. And I started actively reporting inside the lines, oh dear, after the big fire in Calistoga that went from Calistoga to Santa Rosa and burned off the north end of Santa Rosa, and I'm blanking on the name of it.
Tubbs. Tubbs
Tubbs
Fire.
Fire. My first film that sold was off the Tubbs Fire, and I was outside the lines and didn't have any press passes or anything. And but that was when I started getting serious.
Awesome.
And
Nice. Yeah.
I
Go
mentored
ahead.
under Kent Porter on the Press Democrat,
Hmm.
and he and I, and quite possibly you, are. I am very different than Kent Porter as an illustration. He can tell you the names and the years of the fires, and I cannot. I have to go back and look the stuff up. It just sort of runs together a little bit, which is a wiring thing in myself. But the experiences have grown, and I've matured as a reporter, and here we are.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. If I could get to the knowledge base that Kent Porter has, I would be so happy with myself. I'm good to about like 2018, but I mean, he can go back to like the mid 80s, which
well, he
is
does, and
amazing.
it's
Yeah.
been and his, I think he was storm chasing when they required ponies or something, and he and I have been chatting back and forth this evening because he's been on what's the fire next to Lake Shasta right now, the
The
Red
Green
Fire,
Fire.
and so we had a day off, and so he went up and rode on the recovery boats with the Petaluma Sheriff's Department or whatever it is, and I'm like, dude, it's your day off. He's like, I am not good at days off.
That's why he's everywhere. That's just why he's everywhere.
And I am an hour from the heart of Lake County, and Santa Rosa is further than that. Even if he goes up the old grade road to Lakeport, and he can beat me almost every time.
Always.
And So, but then again, I have a different professional job and a different career, and so fire reporting is on the side, which means I might have to wrap up things in the office before I can jump in the truck sometimes too.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Well, kind of the first question that I have here, and it's just kind of pretty generic, it's just when I mention the Dixie Fire, what's like kind of the first memory that pops up into your head?
There's two there's two things on the Dixie Fire. The first, man, it runs together. What was what night? What was the next night? I was staging out of Paradise at that point, and so it was a shorter drive. And is it Indian Wells, which is on the highway? I was up there with another reporter from Oakland when that burnt, and and then I was on the edge of town when the town went up. The next, I want to say the next night, but I could have that wrong. Um, but when Greenville went up, I was there that night. Indian Falls, and we were in Indian Falls, and in both situations, I was comfortable. Get in there with the trucks, get in there walking over hoses, full turnouts, comfortable with what I'm doing. And the person I was with was very, very new, both at Indian Falls and then at Greenville. And each time I realized, well, frankly, something that you've realized, that there's a kind of edge that comes off being new to this sort of stress. And I realized that the edge had come off and had been replaced with confidence and poise, because the person next to me was behaving like they'd never experienced this kind of stress before. And on the night Greenville went up, and I was horrified two different ways. One, um, I'll say it, PG&E got a second town, and it just seemed impossible that everybody would have done enough, and the utility would have done enough that they wouldn't get a bite at a second town, and they did. And I was on the south side of Greenville on Highway 89, and there's a bridge that goes up over the railroad track and then drops down into town going north. And on the south end of all of that, there's a little tiny piece of town, and there's some old motels and that sort of thing. And I was filming pitch dark, and a young reporter that I hadn't met before was next to me with absolutely crisp turnouts that had just come off the truck. And we were filming this motel, and the pressure relief went off on a 200 gallon or a 500 gallon propane tank, and the person next to me had never experienced that before. It was clear that this person had not experienced that before, and it bothered me a little bit because I was composing shots and doing rule of thirds and doing composition and doing foreground and background in the middle of all this stuff. And I was composing film that I was hoping to sell. And I realized that I had a kind of unresolved guilt about the whole thing. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
That I'm here because I want to document this thing, but I'm here because I need to make a sale to pay for the gas. And those things are in conflict. That documenting and really being filled with empathy for a community, and oh, I need to try to sell this at the same time. That's my first response to Dixie Fire.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, being during that time, it was just kind of my introduction to what was, the OG Fire Twitter, essentially, with all the reporting and just kind of really getting into what I do now. I would say that your footage was so valuable, and the photos that everyone was getting, just putting out into the world, showing kind of what the Dixie Fire was doing. And for me, that was just so moving to see once again, Wildfire, taking out another community in an area that I know pretty well, that we all know pretty well.
Yeah,
And now that I've been in Butte County in Northern California for 4 years now, I've gotten to know people that lived in Greenville that lost everything, or in Paradise, or in, Cohasset Forest Ranch, and I can only hope that, especially now with, now that I'm doing it, and I have been for the last couple of years documenting that footage, that maybe that will inspire more people to take up a geography course that goes more into wildfire or fire ecology,
yep,
something that is related in this field to, make a difference essentially.
yeah. The camaraderie inside the lines is something that I remember as well. People looking out for each other is something that is on every fire, and the um, I'm the team leaders on. I'm picking the wrong word on five trucks and a pickup,
Oh,
and
strike team,
the
yeah.
strike team leaders that are in the white trucks are the most incredibly smart, knowledgeable, experienced people, and they understand that news media is attempting something valuable involving getting the word out and doing the best we can to document something. And if we behave professionally, they return the favor and keep an eye out both directions. Um, on the Dixie Fire up above um, Greenville is Round Valley Reservoir. And it looked, with all of the lines that they had put in up on top of the ridge, this Round Valley Reservoir is on the west side of town. And they had put in um, essentially four blade wide lines up on top of the ridge. And every plan was is that they would catch it during the night up on the ridge, and it might back down towards the valley, but it shouldn't jump and hit things hard. And I was up at the reservoir, and it was getting late. And at that time, I had a cell phone amplifier antenna on my truck, which is now everybody's got them on the PG&E trucks, and you probably have one on your Toyota. And it was the only one for miles. And I was up there, and there was a strike team resting at the dam on this little reservoir. And I walked over to the fellows and said, "Hey, I've got an amplifier on my cell phone, and there's signal next to my truck. If you want to come over and lean against the truck, you can use the signal." And these guys walked over, and they were exhausted, and they're calling their families and telling their kids good night. It just really, people don't know what's going on out there, and trying to have a little window into what's going on and illustrate it has been pretty cool.
Yeah. No, it's those moments that keep me going with actually going out there into the field. Because I mean, I've had many experiences like that, but now's not the time to share them. It'll be a certain day. This video is about you, Craig. This is all about
uh,
you.
oh,
I will
but
say,
but
the
the
I
love
will
hate
say,
with the fire. My wife and I went and bought a burned down parcel in Paradise after the campfire, and so we're helping rebuild the ridge. But that's because the family was burnt out and decided not to rebuild. It cuts both ways,
right? Um,
and it's an honor to help rebuild the ridge. But a lot of suffering goes into it before that ever happens.
yeah. No, absolutely. And especially the people that stayed behind to rebuild again too. That is
Yeah.
an act of courage that should not be understated. That is
No, it's not.
something.
And that's you're talking about the Dixie Fire, not the Camp Fire, but hopefully planners and first responders have learned a lot since the Camp Fire because a lot of mistakes were made in community organization stuff, and hopefully they've learned a lot.
Yeah. Well, going back towards like, kind of comparing, because obviously you've had a lot of experience, Tubbs was your first fire. When you stack up the Dixie Fire compared to all the other fires that you've documented, where does that compare? Like, let's just say in your list of wildfires that you've covered, which one takes the top one?
Which one takes the top one? For me, the experiences on the Dixie Fire are not the top one because I had a different set of experiences down on Highway 50 with the fire that burnt from Grizzly Flats up over Tahoe and dropped into the Tahoe Basin. And again, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the fire. Um,
Caldor.
yes, and I was on the Dixie Fire. It was so big, and you've been sharing online about some retrospective recently about how big it was and how much it covered and how many days it just ground and ground and ground. And oh, they've got to have it now. The weather's shifted, the winds have shifted, humans have got the upper hand now. Nope. And it would jump and go again and jump and go again. And I spent a lot of time up on the western side of Lake Almanor, and it would jump 89 up there and put pressure on the cabins against the lake and put pressure on. Well, there's an executive house track on that side of the lake as well, and then there were spheres that it would jump and hit the nose of the peninsula on the other side where the golf courses are. But after all of the grinding that the Dixie Fire had climbing east, climbing towards Lake Almanor, and they had so much time to prepare. And it still just casually jumped everything and hit the strip of forest between 89 and the lake. And that evening and that night was the biggest tree topping that I had seen up until that point. That everybody had done everything and they had ground both sides of the highway and they had cleared everything, and it just jumped and went. And um, and that human versus nature thing, which you're doing a really good job on. Yeah, it's human versus nature, but this is not nature the way it used to be. This is nature of today, not nature of 100 years ago, 50 years ago. We're paying the price for the put out every fire. And even now, CAL FIRE is committed to all fires will stay under 10 acres, and then we'll do controlled burns when we can control it, but we're not going to let stuff fester. And you're right until you're wrong. And the fire in the national forest that was above Markleyville a few years ago, in national forest south of Tahoe, south of 50, but well south of there. And it was a lightning fire that pushed east down into Markleyville, and National Forest had been letting it fester and keeping an eye on it, and then it blew up and just roared down the draw and put all the pressure on Markleyville. They got it, but keeping an eye on it cuts both ways after all these years.
Yeah, I think it's such just a push and pull thing with, I mean, look at recently just what happened in Arizona, the north, at the north part of the Grand Canyon.
I'm. Have you ever been there?
I haven't, but
It was one
I
of the
would love to.
classic whole log 1930s national park sites that my wife and I have spent nights there. I've gone out on the point out behind that lodge and done astrophotography of the Milky Way across the Grand Canyon. It's devastating. And I know that the state is going to push back and go, feds, you have to prove that you had all the resources you need after all these layoffs and everything. And so it's going to turn political instantly. But a couple of years ago, they lost one of the lodges up at Glacier National Park as well. And the same thing, and that particular lodge was further off the beaten path and less people knew about it. But another one of these 1930s, 1940s log constructions gone. And the north rim of the Grand Canyon, they've been doing controlled burns inside the park with different forestry management than outside the park. And they can't get their act together. And here's a line through the woods, and the management rules are different on both sides of the line by two separate federal agencies.
Yep.
And the same thing happens in the Sierras with state forest, national forest, private lands with Pacific lumber. And how do you get everybody on the same page? And I'm going to, oh dear, I keep looking at my phone to get reminded of in your research on the Sierras and the fires in the Sierras, have you bumped into the Quincy Library Group?
I haven't yet. The name sounds
If
familiar.
you punched in the Quincy Library Group, and it's been, no, it's more than 10 years now, that the parties started talking, and they were using actually a public space in the library, but conservation and private lumber and public timber and fire management and conservationists started comparing notes and talking about that which they had in common instead of that which drives them apart. And it's a really interesting story
Hmm.
that there are ways forward.
Yeah.
And even since the Camp Fire, California and Cal Fire appear to be budgeting more for control burns because it's cheaper to do a control burn than it is to put out a fire.
Yep.
So
But then on the flip side too, what's going to generate more revenue? So
big fires.
exactly. And contractors, you know?
All true.
Yeah.
And yet I'm talking to you from on top of Howell Mountain in Napa County, and Angwin, California was listed on one of the top, I don't know, top 10, top 5 at-risk communities that hadn't burned down after Paradise, because there's only two ways in and out of this mountaintop. There's 3 or 4 thousand people up here, curvy single lane roads, and we were sitting here in the tinder, and right now PG&E is doing all of the undergrounding
Mm.
and in town and out on the edges of the hill. And private forest has masticated 300 or 400 acres in a 3 mile strip on the east side of the community, all on private property, all paid for with fire grants. And they've masticated enough that people complain that, oh, the woods don't look like they used to. Yep. Take a look at them after they burn down.
Yeah.
And this is after we had the glass fire on the west side of Howell Mountain. And I stood in the middle of the night on the glass fire and steadied up and took pictures of my kids' elementary school burning down.
I remember the footage that you got of all the tankers. That was quite
And
an air show that you
yeah,
got.
that particular YouTube video is my biggest hit on YouTube.
It was one of the I was 2020 that I was still up in Oregon. I was still in high school and I saw that
Oh,
video and
really?
I saw that video and I was like, man, doing this shit would be pretty fun.
My wife and I were up on the shoulder of Mount St. Helena, and we had hooked up with another crew that had keys to the gate to get up to the radio towers on Mount St. Helena, and we were up on an overlook looking down on DC 10s, and it was a lifetime experience.
Yeah. So Craig, I can confidently say you were one of the inspirations for me going down the route of documenting wildfires. So
Really?
thank you. Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
absolutely. Seriously.
Oh, Michael, that's kind of
No,
you.
the footage that you got there, the footage that you got in the Dixie Fire was just incredible. Like the stuff that you got on 89 around Chester was is
Yeah.
still some of the best wildfire footage I've seen.
And for you and I have talked a few times out inside the lines, but when I was your age, I was a communication and news writing major in college. And through a series of events, my life changed. I finished degrees in business and management, but I also finished my degree in photography. And late in a different career, reawakening, I'm going to do this, damn it, and I'm going to put in the effort and get a mentor, in my case, Kent, and we're going to pull this off and make it come true. And the other person that has touched me first from afar until we finally met was Stuart Polly.
Yeah.
And on the telling stories instead of talking about the Dixie Fire.
I was gonna say too, I only got like 8 minutes left because I don't have the upgraded version, but keep going.
On the Caldor Fire, he had been there. He had come up from SoCal. He had been there. He left, and I was up on Highway 50, and I had been out there for days, and was sleeping in my truck, and the fire blew up in the middle of the night, and it was supposed to lay down, and it didn't lay down. And I posted something on, well, it was Twitter back then. And I posted something on social media, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm exhausted. I'm out of gas, and I'm going down the hill and going to sleep. And Stuart Pauly private messaged me, and he's like, Craig, you're the only one out there. It's blowing up in the middle of the night, and it's not supposed to. Blankety blank blank. Go get the film. And that was enough to go get the
Oh
film.
yeah. When Stuart's the one telling you to go get it. Yeah.
And so those kind of things, that kind of back each other up and camaraderie and stuff
Yep.
has really paid off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Question for you in your 6 minutes you have left, as you've been pushing the messaging of good fire, you've graduated. What kind of pushback are you getting on the message of there is good fire, let things fester more than we do?
I mean, my post about I think it is called the Dragon Bravo fire, the one that took out North Rim.
Mm-hmm.
It's just people are just still kind of afraid of fire because they think that every single wildfire is the Dixie Fire. It's destructive. It tears through communities.
Right,
Just being able to kind of switch that mindset for people of like not all fire is bad and we have a say in the age of megafire. I think that's kind of
absolutely.
I think that's the biggest thing, because when we think about other natural disasters, we can't control tornadoes. We can't mitigate flooding as much as we think we can. And there's no way we can do anything about earthquakes. We can only do a little bit of a lead time,
Right,
but we can't prevent it.
right,
Wildfire is the only thing that we can actually prevent and mitigate through practices that humanity has already done for thousands of years before. And I think it's just so important now to just get that messaging out and to say, hey, maybe Smokey the Bear wasn't right when he said suppress all fires,
absolutely.
and especially in changing that mindset of, well, what if we just control our smoke output so that we're not choking on smoke like we are in the Northern Valley right now in California for months on end?
Right.
we can control that, and we can control the fuel around your home and the fuel in your forest.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I don't think it's probably an impossible task to go back to what the forests actually look like pre-fire suppression, but we can at least attempt that, and we can put more funding into it, educate more people, get more people out into their local landscapes, and actually, work on the situation,
Well, if you stay in Butte County for a while, and I don't know, what your future plans are, you're right next to a laboratory of the fire, and someone can do a longitudinal survey and see what happens. Mendocino National Forest, particularly the southern half, is about 80% burn off in
hmm
in 3 seasons, and someone needs to be doing some surveying, and you're gearing up to do that kind of thing, and it's going to make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just the solutions are there. It's just a matter of, how can more people get on board with this, you know?
Which slides you in the future into politics.
No.
You have science, you have evidence, you have evidence-based decision making, and politics and money is what makes the difference.
Yeah.
And you're going to make a difference.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you. I really hope that if I can at least help a couple people, and hopefully I've already helped a
You
couple
already
people.
have, you know
So
that.
that's all that motivates me. But
Yeah, your guys' pictures from the fires down south helping get some people out. You've made a difference. So,
that was nuts. Talk
yeah,
about talk about
I
being in a hairy
know.
situation there, Craig. That was nuts.
I know, but you had plenty of ways of escape, and as long
Oh
as your
yeah.
truck's pointed downhill and you've got the six on each other, you're
Oh yeah.
okay.
Yeah. No, it was quite the adrenaline high. But okay, well, before this meeting just abruptly shuts off, do you have any other thoughts or anything on the Dixie Fire? It has been 4 years.
Um, th- I don't fully comprehend this scale. This season, I took my wife out and we drove up through Cohasset and went north on the Ponderosa Way. There's a whole separate topic that I'm interested in documenting the Ponderosa Way north to south. But I've driven that entire section of Ponderosa Way before the fire, all the way through with all the scratches on my truck and everything. And you can't go 3 miles now, but the deadfall is just so massive, and the size of hundreds of thousands of acres eludes people. They don't know how big it is. And possibly drone filming can help give a sense of scale, something to this stuff is big, and the sections that were hot were way too big, and we need cooler fires with smaller hot sections, and it'll make a difference.
Yep.
That's my
100,
take.
100%. 100%.